Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Growth Digger. I'm Akanksha Das, Director of Marketing and Communications at Growth Natives. Today's episode tackles a topic that's quickly moving from emerging trend to boardroom question: LLM attribution. Marketing attribution has always been challenging, but now, with AI changing how buyers research and make decisions, it's becoming even more complex and, in many ways, less visible. And sooner or later, every CMO is going to face the same question from their CFO: how is marketing actually impacting revenue in an AI driven world? To unpack this, I'm joined by Abeer Aulakh, Director of Marketing and Communications at DiGGrowth. Abeer, great to have you here.
Thanks, Akanksha. This is a really important conversation because attribution hasn't become less relevant. It's actually becoming more critical, just harder to interpret.
Let's start with the problem. Why does attribution feel so confusing right now?
Because the buyer journey has fundamentally changed. Traditionally, attribution relied on visible touchpoints, clicks, form fills, page visits, and defined journeys. But today, buyers are not always interacting with brands directly. They're asking questions inside AI platforms. They're researching through LLMs, forming opinions, and even shortlisting vendors before ever visiting a website.
So the influence is happening, but it's invisible to traditional systems.
Exactly. The impact exists, but the signals we used to rely on are no longer capturing the full picture.
Let's define this clearly. What does LLM attribution actually mean?
In simple terms, LLM attribution is about understanding how AI tools influence buyer decisions, even when there's no direct interaction like a click or form fill. It involves questions like: did an AI tool mention your brand? Did it represent your positioning accurately? Did it influence the buyer's perception or shortlist?
So it's not replacing traditional attribution, it's expanding it.
Exactly. It adds a new layer, AI driven influence, to existing attribution models.
Let's bring in the CFO perspective. Why is this going to matter so much at the leadership level?
Because CFOs care about clarity and confidence in numbers. As AI becomes part of the buying journey, traditional reports start to look incomplete. You might see increased awareness or faster deal cycles, but the attribution data doesn't fully explain why.
And that creates uncomfortable questions.
Exactly. Questions like: why are deals progressing faster? Why does brand awareness seem higher without proportional spend? Why don't attribution reports reflect actual influence? If CMOs don't have an answer, it becomes a credibility issue.
So, what is the fundamental shift CMOs need to understand?
The biggest shift is from measuring clicks to measuring influence. LLMs don't drive traffic the way ads do. They shape understanding, trust, and preference.
And that influence shows up later in the funnel.
Exactly. You see it in sales conversations, deal velocity, win rates, but not always in first touch or last touch attribution models.
What role does content play in this new landscape?
Content becomes even more critical. LLMs rely on available content to generate responses. So your positioning, messaging, and thought leadership directly influence how your brand is represented.
So, it's not just about creating content, it's about controlling the narrative.
Exactly. Strong, consistent messaging increases the likelihood that AI tools reflect your brand accurately.
If traditional metrics are incomplete, what should CMOs start tracking?
They need to look at new types of signals. For example, first, brand mentions within AI generated responses. Second, alignment between AI summaries and brand positioning. Third, changes in deal confidence and sales cycles.
So, the signals are softer but still meaningful.
Exactly. This is not about abandoning measurement, it's about evolving it.
What mistakes are CMOs making right now when it comes to LLM attribution?
There are two major traps. First, ignoring it completely. That leads to outdated reporting and weak positioning in leadership discussions. Second, overcomplicating it too early, trying to force AI influence into existing attribution models.
So, both extremes create problems. Exactly. The right approach is to acknowledge the shift, monitor what's possible, and gradually build capability. What are forward thinking CMOs doing differently?
They're making a few key shifts. They treat AI as a discovery channel, not just a tool. They align marketing, sales, and RevOps on what influence means. They focus heavily on narrative consistency. And importantly, they prepare leadership conversations early.
So they're not waiting to be asked, they're proactively shaping the narrative.
Exactly. That's what turns attribution from a reporting challenge into a strategic advantage.
Let's talk about how you approach this shift.
The key principle is that attribution is not just a reporting issue, it's a systems and alignment issue. I start by understanding how buyers actually research today, including the role of AI. Then, instead of replacing existing models, I layer LLM attribution on top of traditional metrics to build a more complete picture.
And alignment across teams is critical here. Absolutely. Marketing, sales, and finance all need to agree on what influence means. And just as importantly, CMOs need to be prepared to explain this clearly to leadership without overcomplicating it. What's the one question CMOs should be asking themselves today?
It's not, how do we perfectly measure AI influence? It's, are we ready to explain our impact when AI is part of every buyer's journey?
That's a powerful reframing. Let's close with a final takeaway. If there's one thing to remember from today's episode, it's this: attribution hasn't become irrelevant, it has become more transparent because AI is exposing what was always there but harder to measure.
Exactly. Marketing influence was never limited to clicks. LLMs are simply making that invisible influence impossible to ignore.
And the CMOs who understand this early will lead the conversation, not react to it. Thank you so much, Abeer. This was incredibly insightful.
Thanks, Akanksha. Great discussion.
And thank you to everyone listening. We'll see you in the next episode of Growth Digger.